So this is my thing on millennials. And I invited you to say whether you hate millennials and how awful they are. And we're going to have a comment section, and you get to have your say. And the only request I have about that is that you don't fill this up with ad hominem attacks and call people morons and stuff like that. Millennials are accused of being lousy workers, not fitting in, not having good work ethic, wanting to take time off all the time, and not fitting into society, and just basically not being any good. And so obviously, seeing as I'm 62, I'm going to come in here and tell you how full of BS millennials are. I mean, that's what you get from older people, right? Not today. I think you're just fine. Let's go into the sort of the history that came along. In 1975, I bought a pickup truck brand new for $4,000. Today, that same truck would cost $40,000. I made $3.50 an hour as an apprentice carpenter in those days. The job, if you could even find it today, does not pay $35 an hour. The truck doesn't work as good. It costs much more every time it breaks. You can't just like replace all the spark plugs and the points and stuff like that and assume that it's going to work, because your problem is like some sensor that costs $300 and is hidden way down underneath the engine. And you have no idea even what that thing does until you go and pay someone a whole lot of money to put it on some expensive piece of electronic equipment that's nowhere near as sophisticated as your smartphone, but costs a lot more money. And it's all on purpose. You're being screwed. You have come along at a time wages have been declining for half a century. Organized labor has been knocked out of the game. That organized labor was it was the best chance that working people had, and being as so many of the other than working people jobs have already been taken and you're the last of the table, you're going to work for a living. You might even be smart not to go to college, because there may not be that job. Find out about the jobs before you spend your money on college. You're coming into a time when there's less opportunity, more government, prices are higher, wages are lower. It's basically, it's a tough time. I've known all my life that things were gradually getting worse, and I've tried to do something about it, and can't say as I accomplished much. When you guys were still in the cradle, I knew they were going to really stick it to you when you grew up, and now they're doing it. Tom Brokaw had this business about the greatest generation. They weren't that great. That was the generation that ran the Vietnam War. You know, that was the establishment generation when I was young. They didn't care about the environment. They didn't care about people. They were just as greedy as the psychopaths that run the Fortune 500 companies today, and they just took whatever they could get, and they did whatever they had to the people it belonged to get it away from them. And then we came along, the flower children, the hippies, the baby boomers, the me generation, they like to call us. Supposedly we were the selfish ones. Get a grip. Well, we got the Vietnam War stopped. And we got Johnson and Nixon out of power. we had big peace marches, miles of people on great big wide streets like in San Francisco. Just the whole city just packed with people that said, no, this war has got to stop. And there was just nothing they could do. They ended up having to stop it. Martin Luther King, who was a really great hero, especially, of course, to blacks, but to everybody, really, because civil rights doesn't have a color. It's discrimination that has a color. He was doing okay, but when the big push happened, when Jim Crow really started to get beat out, was when the white liberal kids came in and joined. The older people weren't ready to see their own kids out there on the protest line, getting bitten by dogs and beat up by just rednecks, worthless, ignorant people. And not to say every redneck is a worthless, ignorant person, but the ones that were out there with clubs beating up on the Freedom Riders damn sure were. The establishment retrenched, but we did overcome. They just couldn't control us. Yeah, they buried some Freedom Riders in an Earthfield Dam and so on like that. But they couldn't stop the mass of us, and so they lost. Today, I look and you got to think. I mean, I'm just a few years younger than the Freedom Riders. I knew people that had been Freedom Riders. Well, these guys got down there in the South, riding on a bus and telling them Rosa Parks doesn't have to sit in the back. And, you were liable to get dragged off the bus and beat to hell. It happened. But they did it anyway, and they got arrested, and it changed. Now I see these things like somebody at Evergreen College talking about, don't tell us what blacks need, you don't know. Well, our whole, the whole peace and freedom and anti-discrimination movement and all that stuff was based on long-standing American principles of equality and freedom and all that kind of stuff. And those principles asserted that we did know. And Martin Luther King said we did know. And even today, you've got a lot of blacks that say, it's not a black-white issue. It's about whether they can treat anybody in your society this way. And my answer is no, you can't. And we'll do what we have to stop you. I'm not suggesting an armed revolution. It wouldn't work, for one thing. I think anything that wouldn't work, there's no point in saying and criticizing it any further than that. What do blacks need? Freedom, jobs, housing, food, cities where they can walk around or drive around without getting shot by badly trained cops for no damn reason. That's what they need. And I know that just as well as they do, because I'm a human being just like they are. And the fact that I'm a different color doesn't mean shit. The neocons, W. Bush, all of those, the latest of the establishment's little pawns, are, I remember being offended with Reagan having a cabinet full of millionaires, and well, now they get a cabinet full of billionaires. And when Pink Floyd said, "I'm in high fidelity first class traveling section. I think I need a Learjet," and they were laughing. Well, that was the millionaires talking. Now, a millionaire's nothing. You got to be a billionaire, and you have to have a Gulfstream jet, a Lears, or they don't even make Lears anymore. None of those people are going to be impressed by a Lear. Organized labor, organizations like the IWW fought and died to establish the right of collective bargaining in the United States. And then people just didn't care all that much, and they just let it all be taken away from them. I want you to know that some of us in the preceding direction tried real hard for you guys. We knew what they were going to do to you. We didn't like it. We didn't want it. But we couldn't stop them. They're taking away everybody's health care. Well, the billionaires will keep theirs. They're taxing especially the lower middle class and the working class, which is where most of you guys are going to land. They're taxing you and us in order to give Goldman Sachs $700 billion for their own greed and stupidity. Them and AIP and some other outfits. But Goldman Sachs now is in the cabinet. The same people that did all this stuff to you, there they are. And you're being told, essentially, that you're bad people because you don't want to stick to a job like it was a career. But they give you a job that there's no point in sticking to. They aren't giving you these nice jobs that lead anywhere. They're giving you dead-end jobs. And I know all about dead-end jobs, believe it. I got a law degree, but it didn't do me any good because I just wasn't enough of a son of a bitch to make it in the legal profession. I was okay at trying cases, but I just lacked those shark genes, I guess. But what have you guys got? What are your advantages? Well, you have the net. You got smartphones. You've got a machine. When I started programming computers, IBM System 360 mainframe ran an entire university at 1.2 or something like that megahertz. You have thousands, if not a million times the computing power of one of those mainframes in your shirt pocket, and you know how to use it. You know how to get on the net and look stuff up. So when you hear that so-and-so said this and you don't know who that is, you Google that dude and you find out that, well, this guy works for this, what is it? There's the Heartland something, that tried to tell people that tobacco wouldn't hurt them. So, we don't believe anything somebody like that says. They're not taking tobacco money, and they're taking some money from somebody to tell you things that aren't true. And then you look up Noam Chomsky and you say, oh yeah, we can believe Noam Chomsky if we can get used to him talking so slowly and quietly. Even though he's telling you really important, really well thought out stuff. But you might watch a little Noam Chomsky every once in a while and not overdose yourself with it. You know how the system is screwing you. You know what's going on. And you know about all the bad things that previous generations have done. You know about Hitler and the Holocaust, and you know about Pol Pot and another Holocaust, and you know about Stalin and the Gulag Archipelago. And you know that that's happened a whole bunch of times all over the planet, and an awful lot of those dictators that have done stuff like that have been backed by the United States, and you know that too. You can look it up on your smartphones. And like I said, you know how to use them. So if you want to know who these people are and what they've done, you can look them right up. Just Google, there it is. Even though Google is one of those giant corporations, though, you can even look up all the bad stuff about Google on Google. So, you know, you have some unique capabilities to fight against some unique problems. Up until, well, around the history that you remember from personal experience, terrorism was like hijack an airliner, take it to Cuba, Castro would send it back. You know, that was terrorism. That wasn't any blowing up the Trade Center, trying to establish Sharia law in the West and all these crazy things like that. So the problems are getting worse. But who's fighting ISIS? Yeah, the Americans are fighting ISIS. Okay, so we look at. I looked at something about the troops in Iraq, and I had a hard time even imagining how this could be true. But they said the average age of a soldier posted to Iraq was 19 years. That's you guys. Okay, the people today, the fighters, the people that are still in the front line with the bullets whistling past them, are you guys. You guys are the master snipers and the Marine Corps Scout snipers. You're the UDT guys and the SEALs. That's you. Whenever somebody tells you that millennials can't do anything, they wouldn't want to fight you guys. And you know, that's you're every bit as good as the people that went to the Second World War and fought at Guadalcanal and all that kind of stuff. And they were damn good, but you're the equal of them. And you know, there's other people that are fighting ISIS. You can get some inspiration from the Kurds, like the YPG and YPJ. They've got a bunch of people, girls too, from your age group, that are killing ISIS. You got women walking around with belt-fed machine guns, and they're happy with it. They're not afraid to die. Tremendous courage, and it's like every generation you've got it. You know, these forces of evil are going to have to be fought again, and you're the ones coming along to fight them. And I sure hope you can beat them. They're going to be very hard.